Hi guys. It's been a while, hasn't it? Actually, it's been so long that I might as well reintroduce myself. I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it. You listen. No, this isn't episode 210. This is going to be one part of a series of reviews I'm going to be doing for a certain fanfic series called Sailor Moon Tea, the author being PsyWeedle on fanfiction.net. Now you're probably wondering why I'm doing this, especially something as random sounding as Sailor Moon Tea by someone known as PsyWeedle. Well, PsyWeedle goes by a different name. A name that's probably pretty well known to a lot of people in the That Guy with Glasses fandom and universe. PsyWeedle is Linkara. A couple of years ago, probably more than a couple of years ago at this point, someone wanted me to review some of the fanfics that Linkara has written. I asked them if they could provide a link, and they said they couldn't find the link, although at this point I'm thinking they were just lazy and didn't want to send me the link, and assumed that the fanfics weren't up anymore. Well, according to Linkara himself, they are up, and he told me that if I can find them, I am free to review them. So, Linkara, in case you're watching this, I found your fanfiction.net page, and I shall be reviewing your Sailor Moon Tea fanfics. This is going to take a very long time to do, guys, because I'm going to be breaking a few of my FanFic Critic rules while doing this. See, a lot of the fanfics in his Sailor Moon Tea series are well over the word count limit that I've set myself. But seeing this is a special case, each fanfic is going to be broken up into a series of parts. The first fanfic that we're going to be taking a look at is over 58,000 words long and has 30 chapters. So this fanfic in particular is probably going to be 3 chapters an episode. So it'd probably be about 10 episodes altogether for this one series before we move on to the next. So yeah, then I'm probably going to do that with each and every fanfic that he has. Some of them are shorter. The next one is a little bit shorter, coming in about 53,000 words. The one after that, okay, that's not a Sailor Moon one, never mind. One after that's about 52,000. The one after that's 16,000. So, yeah. I figured that I could do this while you guys wait for the official Fanfic Critic season. Now, you guys are probably wondering why that Fanfic Critic season hasn't, continued yet. Last episode, I believe, was episode 210. Well, Susan got pissed off at me, and she took all my footage and my camera and went off to England with it. So yeah, I won't be able to do anything and edit anything until she comes back. Unfortunately for her, she forgot to take this camera. The camera I'm filming with right now kind of sucks. It may look all fine and pretty, but it glitches, so if that happens at all during this, I do apologize. But filming with this is better than not filming at all. So, let's not waste any time, and let's get started with the first fanfic, Sailor Moon Tea, episodes 1 through 29, and movie. Here's the description. A hero from my Web of Dimensions fic goes in search of the Sailor Titans. Also crossover with video game Diablo 2. Well, I don't see the Web of Dimensions fanfic anywhere on this page, so I think I'm out of luck. Alright, this is rated K+. It's in English, it's adventure fantasy. It's 30 chapters, 58,827 words with 3 reviews, 3 faves, and 1 follow, and it was published back on July 4th of 2001. The good old year of 2001 when I was still a preteen, or would being 11 years old be considered a preteen? Okay, let's get started. Note, the character Ryuisu and events surrounding him originally came from a Sailor Moon / Pokemon / Digimon crossover fic titled Web of Dimensions. And I probably pronounced that character's name wrong. I do apologize. Because of an extensive number of chapters with that fic, only the first 4 parts of it were posted to fanfiction.net. Apparently not anymore. However, basically, all one has to know is that Ryusu is the former prince of Alpha Centauri and was resurrected like the other sailors. He has an extensive history, which is later explained throughout the series. I guess that's the end of the author's note. A crash of thunder, a loud bang of lightning. That's what was heard on the streets of Tokyo. The rain poured down like mad, sending a never-ending stream of water droplets onto the ground. A lone figure in a trench coat stepped through a puddle as he walked towards a temple on a small hill. In this temple, one question was being passed across the table. Okay, guys, take a look at this screenshot. For those who have watched the show for a while, you guys know that I don't like that. But in case you're someone who just recently started to tune in, this right here is a no-no. It's just clunky. You're better off, especially if the rest of the story is going to be kind of formatted like a normal story, you might as well just use quotations and stuff. I mean, you got to keep in mind, this was written back in 2001, and I'm assuming that Mr. Linkara is not much older than me, so he was probably maybe between the ages of 10 and 15 when he wrote this. At the time I filmed this video, I'm 24 and a half, so I'm guessing he's around the same age as me, and if you're much older or much younger, I do apologize. I highly doubt Linkara is watching this, but just in case he is. So, I'll try not to be too critical, but we'll see. Serena. Is the food ready yet? Ray. Gee, Serena, would you just be patient already? Lita's working as hard as she can. Serena. If I can't have food, I'll die of starvation. Luna. For crying out loud, Serena. You've waited longer for food, you'll live. Serena. No, I won't. Amy. Serena, these study groups are for studying. If you want something to do, I would recommend studying. Mina. I want food too. Artemis. And I always wonder, how did we beat all those enemies with this group of scouts? Lita. Food's done. Serena. About time. Serena ran up as fast as she could towards the kitchen in Ray's temple. Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second, and I want to quickly show you guys that screen cap again. Let's bring it up on screen. You guys see it? Okay, good. Notice how the names are supposed to be the American names, you know, from the dub. Serena, Lita, Mina, Amy, Ray. Now, in the Japanese versions and in the American versions, Amy and Ray's names are pronounced the same way, but they're spelled differently. I notice here that Amy and Ray's names are spelled like the Japanese versions of their names and not the American names. Now, if you guys are going to go with writing Sailor Moon fanfics using the American names, I would highly recommend that you keep the spelling of Amy and Ray consistent to the American versions, not the dub. I might just be a bit nitpicky, but it just makes more sense because it flows a lot better. Let's continue. She immediately grabbed the cake on the counter and placed it on the table, cutting out a huge piece of it and eating as fast as she could. Amy. One must wonder how will that girl eat so much yet stay so thin? Well, she's a 14-year-old girl and she probably hasn't had her metabolism slow down on her yet, so she can get away with eating like a pig all she wants. Once when she gets up to my age, not so much. Suddenly, the screen door next to the kitchen was knocked upon. Ray walked over and slid it open. In front of the door was a shadowed man in a trench coat and hat. Thunder and lightning flashed behind him. Everyone looked with faces of shock and dismay at the shadowed man, glaring with his evil-looking eyes. The man took off his hat. Ryusu. Bloody smeggin' hell. Are you people going to invite me in, or aren't you? Ray. Ryusu! Of course, come in, come in. Ryusu walked in, drenched, in water and placed his trench coat and hat on a nearby coat rack. Ryusu. Honest to God, every time I go someplace alone, it rains. It rains in Tristram, it rained in South Tokyo, it rained in London, and now it rains here. I'm going to have to stick by you just to make sure I don't get waterlogged. Everyone laughed. Ray. Where have you been anyway? You just said about a year or two ago that you had to leave and you'll be back. Ryasu. There wasn't a time to call you guys and give a detailed explanation. The high school I was going to wanted to give me the opportunity to move back to London and get into a nice school. It was effective immediately, so I had to pack quickly and leave. That's why my void apartment was shut off, and why I left in a hurry. Now that I'm done with high school, I have returned to the people I know and love. Mina. This is so great. You'll never believe what happened while you were gone. Ryasu. I've heard through my sources. Ryasu looked at Luna and Artemis. Okay, seeing I have a distinct voice for him, I'm not going to bother continuing to say his name unless I have to. That you took on some sort of zombie circus and a freak who liked mirrors and was confronted by the woman I fought when I was involved in the Sailor Holy Wars. That was dangerous and stupid, and you should have called me for help. Ray, you didn't leave us a number or anything. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that. Amy, I'm assuming your void has now been reinstated over Darian's apartment? Correct as always, Amy. Now that I'm back in town, I'm going to start looking for colleges to enroll in next year, and a good life to recover. Anything else interesting happened while I was gone? Rini, I'll say a town is back to normal. Well, beam me up, Scotty. I always knew that girl had potential. Were Amara and Michelle overly thrilled about the concept, like the last time I resurrected Sailor Saturn? Lita. Surprisingly enough, they seemed rather happy to have the whole team of outer soldiers up. Well, I can't please everyone. Still, let's dig in. Voice. The Soul Stones? Voice. I think he should have numbered the voices here. Is it all supposed to be the same voice, or is it just the same voice talking to itself? Then again, I talk to myself all the time, so that wouldn't be too odd. They are in our hands. Voice, number 3, I guess. Not even the Archangel Teriel can stop us now. Voice number 4. Or voice number 2. I'm not sure, because they're not numbered at all, just says voice. Our first advance must be against the ones known as the Sailor Soldiers. They are our enemies now. I noticed that instead of having like dashes or like little dots to indicate a different scene, he just has a huge space in between each of them, which I guess that kind of works, but it's a little jarring. The group began to eat the cake when suddenly Serena's communicator flashed on. The image of Trista appeared on screen. Serena. Trista, you'll never believe who just walked through the door of Ray's. Trista. Quickly, something's happening downtown at 3rd and Main. Hurry. Luna. Scouts, transform. Moon, eternal power. Mercury, crystal power. Mars, crystal power. Jupiter, crystal power. Venus, crystal power. Moon, prism power. Jeez, every time I leave, you people get new transformations. Alpha Centauri power. Okay. And I guess we're in another scene. Uranus. And yes, I am saying Uranus, not Uranus, because it's supposed to be pronounced Uranus, not Uranus. Uranus sounds a lot worse than Uranus. Either way, you're either saying butt or you're saying pee. I'd rather say the butt version because it sounds better. So I'm going to say Uranus. Uranus world shaking! The yellow ball of energy shot out at one of the 3 creatures who reflected it easily. There were 3 creatures. All of them seemed to have risen from the depths of hell itself. One was red and stood 8 feet tall from hoof to thorn. His body and horns all over, black as death, and his body was rippling with muscles and strength and brute force. Commas are your best friend. 2 red eyes were 2 red eyes were on his fanged face. So does he have fangs like all over his face, or is it just his teeth? With enough evil and intensity to send chills down an angel's spine. The second creature was even stranger than his predecessor. He had no legs, just a gas and smoke cloud that his torso stood upon. He was practically bone, with 3 fingered bone hands with green energy emitting from them. His face had 2 boned horns coming from his face. His eyes burned green lime. The third one looked the weakest of the 3. He was wearing a dark cloak. His skin was tannish white, and his skin seemed to be just wrapped around his skeleton, with no muscles or tendons or anything. Again, use commas instead of doing or, and. Then again, the person I'm talking to who wrote this back in 2001, but old habits die hard. He walked normally, but nothing else was special about him. Pluto. Pluto, deadly scream! Sailor Pluto blasted a purple bolt of energy out of her staff, which went towards the ghostly figure that stood on a cloud. The creature's glowing green hands took the purple ball of energy and changed it into a greenish color. He then sent it spiraling towards Pluto. Saturn's silent wall! A black wall of energy suddenly appeared out of nowhere and blocked the blast from hitting Pluto. Horned creature. Ghostly creature. Teamwork and anticipation. Skin creature. I think a new strategy is in order. Voice. You're going to need a lot more than just a strategy after we're done with you. The 3, okay, that was probably one of the Sailor Scouts, and I just gave them a manly voice. Assume that one of them had a cold. The 3 creatures looked up and see 7 silhouetted figures. Moon. You're in big trouble, nega sleazes. Centauri. We're Sailor Soldiers. And we stand for love and justice. I'm Sailor Moon, Sailor Mercury, Sailor Mars, Sailor Jupiter, Sailor Venus, Sailor Centauri. And in the name of the moon, in the future moon, the inner planets, and Alpha Centauri, all, we shall punish you. Ghostly creature. We are getting more outnumbered, brothers. Horned creature. Irrelevant. We are superior to them. I guess they're all boys. Oops. Skin creature. Agreed. Triangulate our positions, and we'll do more damage. The 3 went into a triangled position, facing the 2 groups of soldiers, all preparing to fire when... 3 red roses shot down, stopping each one in their tracks. Tuxedo Mask jumped down. Tuxedo Mask. Your evil demonic ways are not welcome in a world full of peace, hope, and love. You should leave now before you are destroyed by the Sailor Soldiers. Ghostly creature. Pathetic Halloween costume human. Brothers, destroy them! The 3 suddenly shot out a green ball of energy, a red ball of energy, and a yellow ball of energy, each one ricocheting, I'm not sure if he spelled that right, off of them and hitting each of the sailors. Just say the Sailor Soldiers, or just say the soldiers. Because when you just have it say sailors, I'm thinking of like Popeye the Sailor Man and not Sailor Moon. Knocking every one of them to the ground. Skin creature. They are puny things. Horned creature. Yes, I was expecting more. Centauri suddenly stood up with the other inners and... Okay, you might want to reword that so it doesn't say inners and outers. Okay, let your imaginations go wild with that. Should say with the other soldiers, not inners and outers. Okay, sorry. Let's continue. We're not going down and out yet. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's say that again. We're not down and out yet. Outer soldiers, distract those 3. Inners. Prepare for Sailor Planet attack. They all nodded and got to work. Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, Pluto, Tuxedo Mask, and Mini Moon were all firing their attacks at the 3, with little avail. Moon, eternal power. Alpha Centauri power. Uranus, world shaking. Mercury, crystal power. Mars, crystal power. Neptune, deep submerge. The yellow and blue energy spheres bounced harmlessly off the 3 creatures. Jupiter, crystal power. Venus, crystal power. The horned creature sent out a blast which knocked the outers away. Sailor planets, attack! The The 6 beams of energy shot out at the ghostly figure. Suddenly, he held up one of his hands, and the beams hit his hand. Suddenly, redundant much? He pushed his arm forward, sending the energy back at all the inners. Stop saying inners! All of them were hit with their own blast, knocking them down to the ground, each one hitting it hard. Okay. When I do this, it's the horned creature. There goes a group that has been a nuisance for us for some time. Centauri slowly got up and kept thinking of the words the horned creature had just said. Suddenly his eyes got wide, and he suddenly realized it. That his eyes got wide? Oh wow, my eyes just got wide! That voice. That appearance. Dear God, you're Diablo! Diablo. No duh, insolent sailor brat. I killed you, and I destroyed your soul stone. You cannot destroy me so easily. Allow me to introduce my brothers. Mephisto, the one with the cloud, or the Lord of Hate, and my younger brother, Baal, I'll just go with Baal, the Lord of Destruction. Saturn, you know these guys, Centauri? To my utter horror, yes. Allow me to introduce Diablo, Lord of Terror. Mephisto. Correct. Time to guy, sailor nothings. The 3 charged up energy balls and shot them at the I'm sorry, I'm just going to crack up every single time I see inners and outers. I'm just going to replace it with the soldiers. And shot them at the soldiers. Suddenly, a white force field erupted upwards and shot the energy in their tracks. An old man in a dark robe walked out of the force field. Obi-Wan Kenobi? You! Bowed. When he gets involved, it's time to leave. Mephisto. Agreed. Goodbye, sailor nothings. We shall return. 3 evil demons teleported away. Centauri took off his helmet and looked at the old man. Deckard? Deckard Kane? Kane. Expecting someone else, Ryasu. To be continued. Well, that's the end of Chapter 1, Beginnings. I think we have time for the next couple chapters. So far, interesting. It's a little jarring to read, especially out loud, but it is interesting. New theme song, The Touch by Stan Bush. This chapter is called The Sin War, and in case I didn't say the name of the first chapter, it was Beginnings. The rain had stopped for the moment, but the night sky was still as dark as ever as about 13 figures walked towards Darian's apartment building. 10 of them were the sailor soldiers. One was Tuxedo Mask, one was Sailor Centauri, and the other was a mysterious old man named Deckard Kane. I wish you'd tell me why you were here instead of Tristram. Kane. Once we reach your home, I shall explain. Uranus. Centauri. Or, Centauri. Well, I can't do Uranus's voice, so. Centauri, who is this man? A friend. Neptune. You never gave us a straight answer. Correct. Uranus. Why not? I don't feel like it. Neptune. That's not an answer. Correct. The group then reached Darian's apartment and took the elevator to the roof. Centauri pulled out a square device with 2 buttons on it, red and blue. Centauri pressed the blue button and a black portal suddenly opened into the air. A ladder flew out of it, hitting the rooftop. Everyone climbed up and they were once again inside of Ryusu's old void home. The void was remarkably unimpressive for the most part. The first thing anyone would notice was the fact that it was black, obviously. The only time color was seen around it was when it was a computer terminal or it was furniture. The computer console itself was large, about the size of a 12 by 10 room. There were 2 monitors on it, coming from the upper section of the console. Otherwise, the console had levers, buttons, 2-dimensional interfaces, etc. As for the furniture, there was very little of it. There was a green couch, 10 feet long, and was divided into 3 sections which joined together. There was a black leather chair next to the couch and off to the side. Farther away, someone could see a bed with I think you put in an extra word there. White sheets and a white blanket and pillow. Next to the bed was a dresser with a clock on it and strewn apart pieces of electronics. Well, at least in this chapter, Linkara did use commas. The sailors in tuxedo met. You know, it's like in Hamo Hamster's fanfic when she kept on calling the nostalgia critic nostalgia. It's like, no. You call him critic, and with the sailor senshi, you call them the sailor senshi, the sailor soldiers. Don't just call them sailors. And if you are listening to that sound, that's the sound of my cat trying to get into the room. Come on, honey, you can come in. While we wait for him to come in, let's continue to read. The sailor scouts and tuxedo mask all looked at Kane, who stood in the center of all of them. Tell me now, Deckard. What are you doing here? Kane looked around the room. As you all know, there are 3 prime evils who have now taken it upon themselves to destroy you and your world. They are known as Diablo, Mephisto, and Bao. Mephisto is the eldest and probably most powerful of the 3 brothers. All of you know that. For a few months, Ryusu went to the town of Tristram to receive a soul stone that belonged to Diablo. And if I keep on changing my accents, I do apologize. Although I'm going to try to keep Centauri as the English accent, because it appeared that he had an English accent in the beginning. I remember it well. How could I forget what we had actually found? Yes, not many warriors believed that Diablo was dead, however. A few traveled to Tristram to investigate it themselves. One of them, a quiet and solitudish man, came through all the way into hell itself to find out for himself. We never knew exactly what did happen. All we know is that when he came out, he brought Diablo with him. We never saw him again. So when he came out, Diablo was with him. Was he like, "Hi guys, it's Diablo," and then they just disappeared? Pluto. What about Mephisto and Bao? Where did they come in? I think that's supposed to be a question, so get rid of the period and add a question mark. If you have a time machine, that is. We're not exactly sure how they were freed. We only have 2 things: relics from the old times, an extract from a diary about Baal, and a letter to the Archbishop Larzius. Centauri winced at the name of Lazarus. Kane brought out the 2 papers from his cloak. Centauri went over and placed them under a projector. All over the void, the image of the letter appeared. Centauri read it. It read, "Faithful Lazarus, I write to you to address my growing concerns regarding your recent petulance and that of your fellow archbishops. For the past few months I have witnessed a certain darkening in your spirits that can hardly account for. You and your brethren are the first among the chosen of the light. If our retainers and followers so much as suspect a rift in authority between us, I fear we would lose so much of the control we have gained over this ancient troubled land. Our line was charged long ago with watching over Kurast and its peoples. As well you well know, that doesn't seem to flow right, but whatever. It is our duty to spread the glory of the light of all corners of the known world, whether it be welcomed or not. But most importantly, the Horadrim entrusted our church to maintain the wardings that keep our dark guests chained beneath the temple city. Since it has been your sole responsibility to safeguard Mephisto's soulstone, I must wonder if perhaps your dreaded task isn't affecting your noble spirit in some... I don't think that's a word. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments down below. Let's continue. Whatever the cause of your recent rebellions against my will, I wish to see you and your archbishops in council immediately. If you have not the strength or heart to perform your duties like a true servant of the light, then I will find someone to replace you. The binding of the Lord of Hatred is paramount to the safety of the future of the Zakarum Church, threatened by the pettiness and jealousy of its servants. I will be expecting you. Sen ke kur que hegan. What does it mean? Possibly that it was Mephisto, not Diablo, who tainted Lazarus's once great soul. Doesn't it really make a lot worth now? Wait, hold on, let me reread that. Doesn't really make a lot of worth now. Okay, yeah, okay. Mars. Why not? I killed Lazarus just before I killed Diablo. Oh. Mercury. What about the other document? It appears to be a journal log. Here, I'll put it up. Centauri took out the letter and placed it in the projector. He slowly read it. On the 5080... The 5080... Don't you mean 58th? Because I don't think 5080 is a number. On the 58th day of our campaign, we caught up with Baal near the ancient port city of Lut-Golin. We had tracked the great Lord of Destruction all the way from the lands of Kyrgyzstan. Some months before, our leader, Tal Raja, believed that Baal was heading north, towards the wintry lands of Skosklin. But for some reason the demon chose to forfeit his lead and take refuge within the sandblasted city. Wishing to avoid a direct confrontation where innocents may be hurt, Tal Rasha ordered us to stay our attack until Baal had left the city walls. We waited and watched for 3 days before the treacherous creature emerged from Lut-Golin. Heading north, as Tal Rasha had predicted, Baal set off once more. Before he had traveled more than a few miles into the surrounding desert, we were on him. With the strongest spells we could muster, we battled the great Lord of Destruction and forced him to give a round before us. The enraged demon let loose the full fury of his powers. The earth itself exploded under our feet, swallowing many of our brethren. Fire leaped up from the rock and burned many more. Destruction spiraled around us in every conceivable form, but we had traveled too far to be stopped just then. Weakened by his exertions, Baal let loose one final strike against Tal Raja. Yet thankfully, the mage was left relatively unhurt. Unfortunately, the sacred soulstone that had been given by the Archangel Tyrell was shattered into several small pieces. Reeling in panic, we pressed our attack and succeeded in temporarily subduing the raging demon. Knowing that the soulstone's broken shards would not be enough to contain Baal's powerful essence, Tal Rasha quickly devised a reckless plan to contain the demon forever. With a feverish light in his eyes, he coolly walked over to Baal's withering form and slit the creature's throat. As Baal's spirit fled the dying body, Tal Rasha chose the largest of the soulstone's shards and jammed it into the opened wound. Just as with Mephisto, Baal's spirit was sucked into the golden shard's vacuous recesses and trapped. The shard pulsed and hummed, as though unstable to hold its terrible contents in check. Though we questioned his judgment, Tal Rasha seemed confident that the shard would hold Baal until our task was complete. At this moment, the Archangel Teriel appeared and held Tal Rasha in his penetrating gaze. The angel's simmering visage was beautiful beyond comprehension, and I distinctly remember him he spelled whispering wrong, to Tal Rasha. Your sacrifice will not be long remembered, Lobo. Yeah. Let's read that again. For some reason, I can't speak clearly tonight. Your sacrifice will be long remembered, noble mage. With the golden shard in hand, Tariel led us to a series of secret caves buried deep beneath the burning desert sands. There we found 7 ancient tomes built by some long-forgotten people. Our grim possession stopped at the last of the enormous vault, and Teriel bade us to continue constructing a binding stone at the chamber's center. It was only then that I realized that Tal Rasha had in mind. We etched powerful runes of containment upon the binding stone and used our magics to craft unbreakable chains from the chamber walls. Once preparations were completed, Tal Rasha ordered that who be shackled and bound to the stone. To our horror, Teriel walked forward and brandished the glowing shard before him. Before any of us could react, the Archangel drove the shard into Ral Russia's bare chest. Golden fire blazed from Tal Russia's eyes as the Lord of Destruction flooded into his withering body. We gaped in awe as the realization of what had transpired took root in our minds. Tal Russia had made the ultimate sacrifice. He would remain chained forever, cursed to wrestle with don't you mean with? Baal's foul spirit until the end of time. Sorrowfully, we made our way back into the sunlight and watched as Teriel closed the tomb's giant doors forever. The last sound to escape the cold tomb was the tormented scream not born from this world. I pray that Tal Rusha's sacrifice was not in vain. I pray that the evil buried beneath the desert sands remains bound until men forget there ever were evil spirits that walked among them. Whew. Okay, that's the end of the letter. Now it's the normal dialogue. I can tell because it's doing the kind of scripted thing again. Freaky. Anything else? Just one more thing. An old prophecy. We know it exists, but we've been unable to locate it. Prophecy. You came to the right place, my friend. Centauri walked over to his computer console. Computer! Library! I guess we're in Star Trek now. Suddenly, the void seemed to reverberate for a moment, like a sheet of metal being waved. Then a section suddenly opened inside the void, creating row after row after row of bookshelves. Everyone walked through the lit corridors of bookshelves as Centauri finally came across an aisle titled Legends and Prophecies. Centauri got onto a ladder and climbed halfway. Let's see. He pulled out the first book. The sky will be darkened by the wings of many bats. No. Centauri put it away and grabbed another one. Do not upset the balance. The world will turn to ash. No. Centauri put it away and pulled out another. Moon Princess. We solved that one already. Ah, here it is. He pulled out a red book titled The Sin War. It's mostly... That's not how you spell mostly. Let's continue. In ancient Horatic. I've been unable to translate it. Centauri handed the book to Kane. Yes, I'm familiar with a little ancient Horatic. And you have the right book. The war that first raged against the three prime evils was called the Sin War. Now, let's see. So, the title on the book is in English and it says the Sin War, yet the contents of the book is not translated? So, is the book like a cock tease? Hey, look, I'm going to be in English. Oh, no, you opened me up and I'm actually in Japanese and you don't know Japanese. I'm sorry. I haven't done this in a while, and I'm just letting out a ton of emotions right now. Pent up non-critique, if you know what I mean. Haven't done it in a while, so you get a little, It's probably the reason why Susan took away all my stuff in the first place, so I couldn't do anything. Well, I'm in so much trouble when she gets back. Kane skimmed through a few sections of the book. The group of Titans and soldiers fought destruction into their darkest hours. Sadly, neither Titan nor soldier could stop the destruction, nor would they give up. That's all I can translate. Some of this is very complex, so he knows some of it, but not all of it. I'll run it through the translator for a while. So, you can't translate it, but you have a translator to try to translate it? Sailor Moon. Titans? Soldiers? What does that mean? Hope. You are all known as sailor soldiers, correct? They nodded. What if I were to tell you that there were 5 soldiers who you did not know about yet, that were Titans and not soldiers? Mercury. It would be very interesting. Kane looked in the book once more and pulled out a sheet of paper which had been dislodged from the book. It had 5 humanoid shapes on it, all blackened out. This is another record. It's a silhouette of the Titans. It was handed to Centauri, and the paper suddenly glowed. The middle silhouetted image of one of the Titans formed into one figure. Sailor Centauri. I'm one of these Titans. Yes, we must find them. One of us must go and search for these sailor Titans. in hopes that we may find them and use them for our campaign against the 3 prime evils. They are scattered about, I believe. I'll go. Mars, Ryisu, I'm the logical choice. The rest of you have lives you can't just leave to go. Besides, I'm one of these titans. I need to go. Mars, okay, just come back in one piece, alright? Of course. How do I know they're titans, not just regular soldiers? You know, I think I just asked a stupid question. The paper will identify them for who they are. So go, my friend. It is time we finally destroy the 3 prime evils. To be continued. And that's the end of chapter 2. Here's the final chapter for today's episode. Theme song, The Touch by... What's with this theme song? Are we supposed to be listening to this music as we're reading? I'm not going to bother looking it up, so the 3rd chapter is called Moonshine. Intercom. Well, 10-12, Sistval, but I don't know, I don't speak French, I'm not going to read that, I'm sorry. The French words were stuck for a moment in Ryusu's mind, but translation came through rather quickly. Flight 1012, please exit plane in... never mind. Ignore me, never mind. Please exit plane in a calm and orderly fashion. Typically, any place I go in the world, they think I should be calm in an orderly fashion. If only they knew I was flying to save the world. Ryisu placed down in the in-flight magazine and got his luggage off the overhead compartment. Flashback. Ryisu was on a phone, Ryisu was on a video phone in his void. Oracle, did you get the information I requested? Yes. Rumor has it there's a woman fighting crime and evil in Paris. That'd be the first place to start for your titans. Thanks, Babs. Don't mention it. And a flashback. I hope to God her information is right. I need to find those titans before... In his talking to himself, Ryisu suddenly ran into a 17-year-old girl walking into the airport. The two fell to the ground. What's the idea? Oh, I'm sorry. That was the girl, not him. What's the idea? Sorry, I didn't see you there. Hey, you're speaking English. Yeah, I took a course on it. I'm not going to do the French accent, so no. I recognized it by the way you were talking to yourself. Could you help me up, please? Ryisu stood up and helped her up. My name's Michelle. Please look where you're going. My apologies. My name is Ryisu. She had hair flowing down to just above her knees. Wow, and I thought my hair was long. And it was colored a golden brown. She was about 5'7" and was wearing a triangular bandana in her hair. I'll see you later. Ryisu ran off. Suddenly, a tannish gold cat came out behind Michelle. She had a crescent moon on her head. I have a strange feeling about that boy. You have a strange feeling about every guy I meet. True, but I like to keep an eye on him. He may be trouble. Right, I hope you're just overreacting this time. Dramatic space, it must mean it's a new scene. Mephisto. He found what? Wait a minute, she's a woman demon? I thought it said earlier that they were brothers. Oh, wait, no, never mind, I'm an idiot. I read that wrong, let's continue. A woman demon with tarantula-like legs came out of her back, was in front of him. Oh, coming out of her back was in front of him. The Titan Scroll. He intends to use it to find the Sailor Titans and use them against you. This cannot be tolerated. He must be destroyed. Bow. I would not worry, my brother. I have read the prophecy about the Sailor Titans. The group of Titans fought destruction into their darkest hour. Sadly, neither Titan nor soldier could stop destruction. Even if he finds the Titans, they will not stop us. Diablo, we shouldn't take that chance. The prophecy might be incorrect. Mephisto, you are both right, brothers. But still, one less sailor soldier to deal with makes our... It should say ard, but it says out. Job easier. And Dariel, prepare a squadron of fallen ones to attack Sailor Centauri and kill him. At once, my lords. Dramatic space, so that must mean it's another scene. Rain. I hate rain. Once again, it was a downpour of rain with flashes of thunder and lightning. And this is Ryisu, by the way. Just once, I would like to go someplace where it didn't rain. Ryuizu sighed and entered into the hotel. He booked a room for a week, believing that it would be sufficient time to begin searching for the sailor Titan. He then set up a portable computer system inside his room and suddenly connected via internet and video connection to Oracle. Oracle here, come in. This is Ryuizu. I have arrived in Paris and rented a hotel room for the week. Did you receive the printout of the silhouette of the Titans? Affirmative. I've run it through the shapes in my computer, and I believe I've managed to differentiate 4 different shapes of it. I'll send each one to you. Do you have an access port for accessing records and entries with people in the database? And then some. Of course I do, Oracle. I had to shut off my void before I left. It was necessary to bring any computers I had with me. Good. Anything else? Nothing yet. Good night, Babs. The screen faded off. Ryuizu sighed and shut down the computer. He jumped into bed and merely sat and stared at the ceiling. His thoughts were vibrant and always returned him to the same thing, his fight against Diablo. Flashback. 8 feet tall from horn to foot claw, his body was bulky like Arnold Schwarzenegger times 16. His skin was dark red and black horns were all over his body. He opened his mouth and revealed his horrible glistening fangs. Diablo, I presume. Too true. You have been a nuisance to me for some time. It is time for you to see what the real beast of demons can do. I'm really scared. I've been threatened by the ruler of... Centauri never finished that sentence because Diablo suddenly lifted him into the air and threw him into a nearby wall. He jumped back despite 2 broken ribs and readied his fists. All right, King of Evil, let's see what you've got. Never force! Centauri clasped his hands together and once again twirled into a gray tornado and went at a shocking speed into Diablo, only to be deflected away by Diablo's massive claws. Centauri landed again and breathed deeply. This ain't gonna be no Chimeraman. Okay, whatever that is. He obviously got some deep, dark magic going on there, but nothing is impossible, just highly improbable. He'll get weak eventually, Centauri thought. He raised his arms and red, orange, and yellow energy began to flow into the ball in between his arms. Terra Force! He let loose the massive ball of energy at Diablo, who was shot back about 30 feet. Centauri breathed deeply, still in pain from his ribs and bleeding shoulder. Sweat trickled down his face as Diablo got back up, scorched from the Terra Force attack, and readied to tackle Centauri. Centauri stood tall, and the symbol of spirit appeared on his heart. He held out his arms in front of him, and electrical bolts began to form around his arms. Force! Diablo held his fists high. Of! Diablo roared with impassioned fury. Diablo took to his feet and began to run towards Centauri. Planets! Earth! A ball of energy looking like Earth shot out and hit Diablo, knocking him back. Mercury! A ball of energy looking like the planet Mercury shot out and blah 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 blah. This is very redundant. We're going to go all the way down and skip to the bottom because that's just redundant. I'm sorry, but it's redundant. Oh, he even made a joke there where it says, can we get on with it? Thank you. Good job. With the final ball of energy, Diablo fell onto the ground, hard. Centauri collapsed and reverted back to Sailor Centauri. So was he just Centauri before? He walked over to Diablo's limp body and looked at his forehead. There was a red glowing crystal in it. He shot out his Giga Blade and cut it out of his forehead. At last, my debt to the powers that be for my sacrifice is repaid. I have made a difference. Now it's time to go home. To Sailor Mars. To Ray. I'm assuming they were an item in this series. I wouldn't know because I haven't read the other fanfics. End of flashback. It was the only time I ever used Force of the Planets, but that was when I could transform into Super Sailor Centauri, when I was supercharged. I don't get it. Not only can I no longer turn into Super Sailor Centauri, I killed Diablo. Now I see him again, and he's stronger than ever with his brothers. I just don't get it. Slowly, Ryuizu began to fade into unconsciousness. Dream sequence. Ryusu was in the same dream that had haunted him for years. He was standing on a crane as Sailor Centauri, and the Negaverse rebels were standing away from him. They held a control switch button. There were 2 ropes attached to the cranes. One held an innocent young boy, the other one held Sailor Mars. "Make the choice, Sailor Centauri, the boy or your Sailor Mars." Centauri never made the right choice in this. All he did was struggle and say, I. Oops, too late. Suddenly, both cables snapped, sending both to screaming. Okay, if you're saying both, you don't need to say two as well. Just say both of them, screaming as they fell to oblivion. Sailor Centauri yelped and immediately dropped down towards Sailor Mars and grabbed her. They were still falling fast, so Centauri grabbed his flute and shot down a yellow rope, which shot out and tied itself around a beam. He then gave the flute to Mars and began to fall again, trying to reach the boy. The boy was screaming for his mommy, and Centauri was reaching with his arm, trying to grab the boy, remaining 3 feet from his reach, until suddenly Centauri was hit by a falling beam, hit on the head, and he lost focus again. He then looked for the boy again, and saw the bloody mess on the pavement 30 feet below him. Ugh. Centauri's anti-gravity jet suddenly activated, stopping him in midair. He just floated there, looking at the dead body on the pavement. So, why didn't you use your anti-gravity jets before to save them both? Well, this is supposed to be a dream, and not everything in dreams makes sense, so... In the dream sequence, Ryusu woke up screaming. Is that why the dream is still coming? Because I never really repaid my debt to the powers that be when I couldn't make that choice? Don't you mean choice? Ryusu got out of bed and looked out at the window at the moon. It's a wonderful moonshine tonight. He sighed, and suddenly, without warning, 3 small red goblins jumped into the window. Ryusu fell backwards onto his back. Seeing the 3 creatures, he quickly ran backwards into a nearby wall. The 3 creatures held either pikes or a sword and shield. Not that it mattered to Ryusu at the moment. Creature 1. He's the one, kill him. The other 2 creatures came at him with weapons ready. Ryusu jumped up and kicked one. The other one struck with his pike, which missed, and was grabbed by Ryusu's hand. He hurled the pike, which was still attached to the goblin, into another wall. He hurled the pike, which was still attached to the goblin, into the other wall. I think you're missing something there. Not that it matters, because this fanfic was written well over a decade ago. Creature 2. Him stronger than thought. Call in others. I think they meant to say he, but I can assume that maybe these creatures don't speak good English. Suddenly, 10 more of the goblins shot into the room, all with menacing faces. I've seen you before. You're fallen ones. Goblins who were taken by Diablo. I killed several of you when I fought Diablo for the first time. Kill him! Giga Cannon! The 2 cannons came out from his back armor and rested on his shoulders. Blasts of yellow energy shot out, knocking the fallen ones back. He then ran through the path he had made and through the open window onto a shorter building's roof. The fallen ones pursued, jumping over to the roof and surrounding him. Centauri looked around, trying to find a viable strategy, but he could find none. Attack! Voice. Wait! Everyone turned around and saw Michelle standing at the base of the stairway on the roof, and she had a rather angry look on her face. Michelle, get out of here! I suggest you step aside. No ordinary human can take on these demons. Run. Ordinary human? Michelle suddenly revealed with a necklace with a heart-shaped crystal on it. Moon Crystal Power! Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon are transformation music. Poof, and now she's Sailor Michelle Moon Lady. The pink glittery silhouette of Michelle appeared, with only her heart necklace showing. Suddenly, crystals showered out of it, wrapping around her torso. Okay, transformation scene, skip it. Blech. Moonshine. Welcome to my city, demons. I'm Sailor Moonshine, the secondary keeper of time. I am the pretty soldier who will turn you into moon dust. Another moon? Great balls of... Great balls of fire. Great balls of fire. I've got to get Serena to get copyright laws. Well, she's not calling herself Sailor Moon. She's calling herself Sailor Moonshine. And for God's sake, technically Sailor Chibi Moon would be violating that copyright too. Okay, I'm just going to shut up. Creature 2. She's serious, isn't she? Moonshine mirror. Her staff suddenly turned into a mirror, and it reflected the light of the moon off of it onto one of the fallen ones. The fallen one screamed in pain as he felt his energy being drained away and transferred into Sailor Moonshine. The other fallen ones jumped at the chance and jumped up to ram Moonshine. Moonshine Mirage! Sailor Moonshine suddenly disappeared, and the fallen ones fell on top of each other where Moonshine had just stood. Moonshine now stood behind them. The fallen ones jumped again at Moonshine, but she held her staff right in front of her. Moonshine, stop there! Moonshine, time stopper! All of the jumping falling ones suddenly froze midair, doing nothing. Giga Destroyer! Compartments and other assorted places opened up all over Centauri's armor. His missile ports opened, and his 2 cannons came on his back. Suddenly, every piece of weapon on him fired at once. Laser beams, bullets, energy blasters, and missiles all fired at the frozen fallen ones, obliterating them completely. Good teamwork. Now, care to tell me what you're doing in my city? First things first. I need you to touch this paper. Why? Just do it. Centauri held out the Titan silhouette paper, and Moonshine touched it. Suddenly, a silhouette next to Centauri lit up and formed into Moonshine. What was that? A truth. What if I were to tell you that you actually belong to a team of sailor soldiers known as the Sailor Titans? Really? Yep. The creatures who sent those demons want to destroy our world, and it's up to us to stop them. I'm looking all over the globe for the 5 Sailor Titans. You and I are 2 of them. Cool, I'll come with you. Oh, by the way, this is my cat, Astra. The tannish gold cat jumped onto Moonshine's shoulder. I'm assuming Astra's a girl. Pleased to meet you. As am I. Now let's get going. To be continued. Yes, 3 chapters down and a lot more to go. Well, I did say I was going to read the entire story, so this is the end of the first episode of the first Sailor Moon T fanfic, episodes 1 through 29. I'm going to assume that each chapter is an episode. Actually, yeah, that would make sense, because it's episodes 1 through 29 and movie. So yes, my thoughts so far. I mean, it's kind of interesting, but it's very jarring to read, especially with the mixture of having it be in script and then having it be written as a normal story. Again, this was written back in 2001, and clearly the author of this fanfic has moved on to bigger and better things, if you get my drift. So, me critiquing it might be kind of pointless, but critique it I must. If Linkara ever did decide to go back to this fanfic, he now knows how to fix it. If he's even watching this. Which he probably isn't. And if he is, hi. Okay, then now that that's out of the way, this is the end of the first episode. So, I'll see you all next week. Same time, hopefully, same place. And hopefully I'll update this a lot quicker than FanFic Critic itself. I'm gonna kill Susan when she gets back from England. Bye.